Can you keep one or more credit cards when you file bankruptcy if you don't owe any money to that particular lender? Hi, my name is Jonathan Ginsberg. I'm an Atlanta bankruptcy attorney representing clients in Chapter 7 and in Chapter 13 in the Atlanta area. I've been doing this for about 25 years. And I get this question sometimes, and that is, can I keep a credit card? You know, there are times when there's an emergency, I need to have access to short-term credit. Can I keep a card if I have a zero balance or if I just want to keep it? And the answer really is that kind of depends. And if you're looking at Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is the type of bankruptcy where you're discharging or wiping out debts, if you don't owe any money to the creditor, you wouldn't list it. They're not a creditor. Same with Chapter 13. They're not a creditor. In Chapter 7, if you have a zero balance, you would not list the creditor, and then once the bankruptcy is over, in theory, you could start using the card again, because again, it's still out there unless the lender shuts you down. Chapter 13 is a different story. Generally speaking, in Chapter 13, when you file, you'll be asked to turn over or cut up your credit cards. You're not allowed to incur new debt once you're in the Chapter 13 repayment plan. Realize that Chapter 13 is a repayment plan, so while you're repaying your creditors, you cannot incur new debt without permission of the court, even if you have a zero balance. So you won't be able to do it in a 13. In a 7, you may be able to do it. What I tell people sometimes to do is, if let's say they have 5 or 6 credit cards, and you've got one with a $150 balance, go ahead and pay that one off. That's, I think you can make an argument that's normal course of business, paying that off, and that way you have a card with a zero balance that theoretically could survive the bankruptcy. You'd have credit again pretty quickly. Some creditors are happy to do that. Others, like American Express, if they recognize you file bankruptcy, they're going to shut you down. They would know this because the credit card companies are all members of credit bureaus, and if you didn't know this, credit bureaus like Equifax and Experian, TransUnion, they're private companies, and they provide information to the credit card companies, and the documentation, all that small print, that mice print you sign, authorizes the credit card companies to access your credit report periodically as long as you have an active account. So they'll know you file bankruptcy. And like I said, some lenders are happy to have you as a customer. In fact, if you think about it, if you go into a Chapter 7 and you discharge all your debt, you have zero debt to a particular creditor, Chase or Capital One or Synchrony Bank, let's say, and then you go out of bankruptcy, you have no debt, and then you start accessing credit. They're like, great, you are not a risk anymore because you can't file bankruptcy for another 7 years, and you have zero debt, so you're actually a better risk. So some credit card companies look at it that way. Others basically say, if you file bankruptcy, we're going to make you go through the qualification process all over again. So the answer is maybe you can keep a credit card after you file bankruptcy. Definitely not in a 13, possibly in a Chapter 7. This is something that if somebody comes to me with this question, I'm going to look at their history. Have they discharged debt to this particular creditor with other credit cards? What is their payment history looking like? I never tell somebody to assume it's going to happen. It can happen. And if it does, then you walk out of bankruptcy and you can start to reestablish your credit that much faster. So again, it just depends on the circumstances, but I would tell you that in many, many Chapter 7 cases, people walk out, if they have a zero balance credit card, they walk out of bankruptcy, they're done with it in 5 or 6 months or 4 or 5 months typically, and they can start using their credit card again, and nobody says boo, and they have access to credit and can start rebuilding their credit. So that's my answer to that question. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you need more information about bankruptcy or about use of credit cards and how it's impacted by bankruptcy, please reach out to me. My office number is 770-393-4985, and you can find me online at atlanta-bankruptcy-attorney.com. So again, my name is Jonathan Ginsberg, Atlanta bankruptcy attorney, and if I can help you, please let me know. Thanks a lot.